Welcome to our keynote speaker.
Thank you, Julian, for your kind introduction. To the Joint Foreign Chambers of the Philippines, to my colleagues in government, to our friends in the business community, to the esteemed members of the academe, to our development partners, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. So, I am Stella Quimbo. I am a neophyte legislator representing the 2nd District of Marikina. I am also a neophyte politician, an accidental one, having had to fill in the shoes that my husband wore in Congress for 9 years. I taught economics at the UP School of Economics for over 2 decades. I am also, by the way, an accidental keynote speaker today, as my bosses at the House of Representatives have urgent national concerns to attend to at this moment. But nonetheless, I am very happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me. It is truly an honor to speak before all of you as an economist, an educator, a legislator, a public servant, but most importantly, as a Filipino. Ours is a country of rich history, a nation filled with healthy and competing ideologies, and a people of courage, resilience, and hard work. To me, of course, the most interesting aspect of our history is the Philippine economy, which I find so much like the UP basketball team. Sino po sa inyo ang graduate ng UP? So that team is filled with star players, yet it did not make the championship round when it was expected to. And it seems that everyone has a theory as to why not, but UP still can't seem to get its act together. So this afternoon, allow me to share my thoughts on our economy and the role that Congress plays in steering our economy towards sustainable and inclusive growth. In the 1980s, when I was an economics freshman at the UP School of Economics, the economy that I faced with, the economy that I studied, was a highly restrictive and regulated one. An economy that clearly lacked competition in both the domestic and foreign sectors. A study estimated top 4 concentration ratios of 70 to 100% for majority of the manufacturing industries between 1988 to 1995. And among those that benefited from protectionist policies was the then booming industry of shoes in my home city, Marikina. At that time, the government initiated major economic reforms, particularly a series of trade liberalization measures, including the lowering of tariff rates and removal of import controls. Since then, we had slowly progressed from a protectionist system to a relatively open regime. Tariffs went down across sectors from highs of 100% or even more, that was before 1980, to 3 to 10% for the majority of products by the early 2000s. Apart from trade reforms, other reforms that had an impact on the state of competition in the Philippine economy beginning the 80s would include privatization, the demonopolization of the telecoms industry, the deregulation in the shipping and airline industries, oil deregulation, the easing of entry of foreign banks, the easing of foreign equity limits, including resorting to a much less restrictive negative list of activities where foreign equity is limited. In 2015, the Philippine Competition Act was passed after languishing in Congress for 25 years. This is an important economic reform, a game changer for the business community. Overnight, anti-competitive agreements, which many businesses have grown accustomed to, have become illegal. Overnight, huge mergers and acquisitions now need to be scrutinized. Overnight, dominant firms' business practices, which appeared harmless simply because they were taking advantage of synergies, could now be deemed unlawful acts. The law also created an antitrust body, the Philippine Competition Commission, which I served as commissioner for almost 3 years. Today, as a neophyte legislator, what I find interesting is that the debates on the floor still revolve around the same economic problems over the last 4 decades. For example, whether or not the liberalization of rice markets is good for the country is still being hotly debated. Whether or not public utilities need to be redefined and limit competition for public utilities only when these are natural monopolies is still an issue of the day. So I seem to have joined Congress at the right time, at a time when a number of important economic bills are pending before Congress. And as I wear my economist hat in Congress, I, together with 305 men and women, face the vital task of moving our economy forward. The economic measures that our lawmakers and government leaders have been pushing in the 18th Congress are unprecedented. The Cetera bill seeks to reduce corporate income taxes amidst complaints that our tax rates are among the highest in the ASEAN region. The bill also seeks to rationalize fiscal incentives. While some corporations at present enjoy fiscal incentives, it cannot be denied that some of these incentives are unnecessary from an economic standpoint. The state must subsidize only those activities that have positive externalities or those that achieve development goals, such as promotion of employment and exports. The state must subsidize incentives or subsidize firms only if those firms would not employ or export as much without the incentives. Some fiscal incentives are anti-competitive. They give undue competitive advantage to some, perhaps causing an uneven playing field. Not only are redundant and unnecessary incentives wasteful to government, they could actually stunt growth of the economy in the long run. So there must be a rational way to provide incentives to businesses. But exactly what that rational way is the subject of current debate. I have strongly argued before the committees, and especially during plenary debates, that rationalization does not mean taking away all incentives in one swoop. It is rational only if it safeguards the sanctity of contracts and protects existing productive investments. And if warranted, the state needs to provide a longer transition period for investors who are lured to put in money in our country because of the existing incentive schemes. It is highly unfair to these investors if we keep changing the rules in the middle of the ballgame. Amending the Foreign Investment Act has also been approved in Congress. The bill opens up professions to foreign competition with the hope of attracting foreign experts and researchers to enrich the Filipino expertise and widen their knowledge in different fields. This has huge potential to further improve the quality of our nation's human capital. The amendments to the 80-year-old Public Service Act is in the period of interpellation in Congress. For decades, a long list of industries have been protected by a constitutional provision which prohibits foreign ownership beyond 40% in public utilities. The proposed PSA amendments limit public utilities to only 4 industries: water, sewerage, electricity transmission, and electricity distribution, on the basis that these are public services that are natural monopolies. In the case of a natural monopoly, the market demand can be satisfied at the lowest cost by a single provider. Hence, the state opts for one domestic provider, which is properly regulated. Other sectors will be open to foreign competition, including telecommunications, airlines, and shipping. These sectors, which are all key to connectivity, will only continue to increase in productivity and efficiency thanks to stronger competition. The national budget was approved on third reading at the lower house and transmitted on October 4 to the Senate. The budget approval process at the House is a way by which Congress can check on the implementation of laws by the executive. And I certainly hope that Congress in the years to come will take this function even more seriously. At the earlier panel, when we talked about the power sector, it was mentioned many times that we have very good laws, but we are very poor in implementation. I will not disagree with Attorney Jay Layog when he said earlier that this could be because we have too many lawyers. Now, all of these pending legislation are essential to the kind of transformation which our economy needs at this point. We need to seriously usher in the competition era in our history. Competition not only results in lower prices and better quality of goods, it also helps make markets work for business by lowering the cost of inputs, improving market access, and spurring innovation. Experience from all around the world shows us that competitive industries improve overall welfare. As a member of the minority bloc, I have taken to heart our role as fiscalizers of the bills that pass through the House. I am fortunate to have had personally done rigorous policy research as UP professor. I have learned as well from the collective research done by the small community of economists in the country, which I led as president of the Philippine Economic Society in 2014. So as I join debates in Congress, I am armed with all of these insights from research. The monitoring of the implementation of the rice tariffication law is one of my primary advocacies. It was in 1995 when we were first required to tarify our rice quotas, but we kept buying time. And unfortunately, we did not properly utilize the bought time to prepare our rice farmers for tough competition, especially from our ASEAN neighbors. But then early this year, the rice tariffication law was passed amidst the urgent need to address huge increases in the inflation rate post-Train 1. Rice tariffication is another law that is driven by the benefits of increased competition. Shifting to a tariffication regime has increased the flow of imports, thereby allowing us to meet the demand for rice at cheaper prices. It had immediately provided the cure and brought inflation rate to an all-time low. However, the same law has so far left our rice farmers to bear the burden of the reform. Congress had the wisdom to include safety nets for our farmers. The law provides for the creation of the Rice Competitiveness Enhancement Fund precisely to ensure that rice farmers will be caught as they fall through the cracks, and more importantly, to help them bounce back. During my yet short stint in Congress, I have strongly advocated for the timely disbursement of the RCEF so that farmers may continue their essential work and so that in the long run, we may improve their technological capacity and improve the productivity of the agriculture sector. Only by improving agricultural productivity can our economy undertake the needed structural transformation and boost our other industries in the process. On the issue of fuel prices, I have filed a resolution calling for the review of DOE monitoring strategies. In particular, I recommend the review of the policy that requires fuel companies to submit every week its price adjustment on the basis of a formula which uses parameters that are uniform across companies. What I worry is that there's a possibility that this policy itself is the one that facilitates parallel pricing or worse, tacit collusion among oil companies. So having personally seen the benefits of research, how it can ensure that intended effects of legislation are secured, as well as minimizing unintended effects, I also hope that Congress, as an institution, prioritizes capacity building of its research office. Speaker Alan Cayetano himself, in some interviews, had declared this to be a priority. He explained that the proposed increase in the budget of Congress was intended partly to enhance research. He said, and I quote, "Hindi pwedeng nakikipagdebate tayo dito sa executive o yung mga industriya kompleto sa research, tapos tayo hindi." I hope Mr. John Forbes understood it. I will translate it for you later. Our speaker also said that he planned to tap university professors on certain matters. I certainly look forward to debates in the hallowed halls of Congress where we only talk of facts and facts alone. I look forward to debates where the right questions are asked. Evidence-based legislation, in my mind, is the key to produce structural transformation in the Philippine economy. This advocacy is my raison d'etre as a congresswoman. As the economy grows, it is important that basic social services, especially health, are provided. I have long been an advocate of universal health care. In fact, my PhD dissertation was about social health insurance. One of the important debates today is the costing of universal health care, which was provided by a law passed early this year. An accurate estimate of the cost of universal health care is necessary, as this will be the basis for a series of tax measures, beginning with the amendments to the sin tax law. Empirical evidence is certainly required for the proper costing of universal health care. What is the likelihood of a Filipino falling ill? What is the cost of a hospital admission? What is the cost of outpatient care? How much is unmet need? Many of these questions, which are needed for a proper costing, have already been answered by health economists, including myself. We need Congress to put together all of these pieces of evidence to come up with a proper financing plan for universal health care. These are just snapshots of what your legislators talk about every day. Congress is made up of 306 individuals from all over the country with varying advocacies, with heterogeneous philosophies. On my end, because of my personal circumstances, what I stand for is a sustainable economic growth brought about by a dynamic business environment, a growth that creates schooling and job opportunities in order for everyone to partake in such, and a growth that allows everyone a sufficient amount of social protection so that illness nor death will never cause poverty. But we cannot do this alone. Let's all pretend to be a basketball team and work hard to score economic progress. Coordination is of prime importance. A team cannot win without a clear strategy wherein each member plays his role and all are driven by a common goal. Let us not drop the ball this time. All of us here today who represent the various groups in our economy, the private sector, government, academe, business, we all have to work hand in hand for sustained economic growth in the coming years. Teams also need a fair game, a level playing field, so that each one will thrive and reach its full potential. With harmonized efforts to foster an environment of development, we can win. And I tell you, we will. It is truly an honor to share some reflections with you today, But besides that, no honor is much greater than serving the Filipino people. Thank you very much. Mabuhay po ang Arangkada Forum. God bless the Philippines.